Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me, as always, is Musim.
Hello.
This is our last kind of regular episode this year, so we're going to talk about the games we've been playing. We'll talk about November and December's releases here as well. There's not a lot in December anyway. And then next month, we're going to do our kind of yearly look back at the RPGs we've played this past year. Some of them, we haven't talked about in a couple of months, so we'll talk about them, catch up a little bit, and then we'll talk about the RPGs we're looking forward to next year. So we won't have our standard episode next month, but we will have something. So don't forget to tune in next month for all of that. Anyways, Musim, what have you been playing this past month?
So I've only been playing two games,
Okay.
and I will bring up the one that I think you haven't played first,
Okay.
and that is Alan Wake 2: The Lake House DLC.
Okay.
They just released this, I think, the week of Halloween. This is their second and final DLC for Alan Wake. The first one being kind of these little comedy, little hour-long experiences. This one's more like a 4 to 6 hour thing.
Okay.
Um, Depending on how good you are at it and how quickly you figure it out. And it is really freaking good. It sets up some stuff for the Control sequel in it as well.
Oh, right, right.
Um, so to say what the lake house is. So in Alan Wake 2, pretty early on, you find a locked gate that goes to the Federal Bureau of Control's base in Bright Falls, which is the lake house.
Ooh,
And you can't
interesting.
get in. There's a little voice thing, and nothing happens. So this is one of the characters from Alan Wake 2 that is none of the characters that you have played as yet. Um, Shows up to investigate the lake house. Um, and you go in, and it's a multi-level complex. It's still fairly small, but it is multi-level. They introduce a new enemy type that when I first saw him, I was like, I don't know that that's scary. And then one of them grabbed me unexpectedly, and I shrieked.
That'll do it.
Uh, the the fun part about the character you play is because they're a FBC member. Like they're just you get this like showing up for work when you don't really feel like it. Oh,
Right.
another weird crazy thing I have to deal with.
Another
Like
lake house. Here we go. It's probably haunted. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's a fun kind of attitude. Like she's a really good character. I wish I remembered her name.
Mm.
Um, but they have more FMV with the doctors that were running the lake house,
Oh,
and
nice.
you get a little bit of Doctor Darling,
Yes.
uh,
So
which is
good.
wonderful. But I think that actor died, so it's a little
Oh, that's
bittersweet.
right. Yeah, I think so.
Um, but it's good to see him, one more time, and maybe
Mm.
we'll luck out and he recorded more than we realized. But um, it is really freaking good. So if you have Alan Wake 2 and have played through it, I highly recommend you get the Lake House. I think it's worth your time. I'm sure a lot of people will say it's too short, but to me, it's the perfect length.
Nice.
But and other than that, I've been playing a whole lot of Metaphor ReFantazio.
Okay.
Um, have you put any more time into this?
I've had a pretty busy month this month, so I put, I don't know, maybe an hour more into it, I think. And
Mm,
I really want to dive into this as much as I can. I just have not had the time to sit down and put like dedicated time into it because it's one of those RPGs. I want to sit down for like an hour. I mean, more at a time would be great, but an hour at a time and just kind of get through a good chunk of it at a time. And I have not had that time.
yeah. And the game doesn't really open up for like 4 to 6 hours in.
Mm-hmm.
It's that Persona 4, Persona 5 kind of intro. I guess more towards Persona 5, where you get a little bit of a dungeon, but it's mostly a lot of story for a long time.
Right. Like I just opened up the job system So I'm still pretty early on. You know, you had that pretty fun boss fight in the mines at the beginning, and your friend Stoll, I think his name is, gets
Hmm.
his kind of persona moment. Um, and you go back, you talk to more, you get the job system unlocked. the, I felt really badly because you're at the beginning of the game. You're with that kind of like grumpy Scottish guy who's been, you know, a soldier for his whole life. He's really wanted to have magic. He really wants to, and he sees that the two guys have it, and he's like, "Oh man, it is true. I might not get it in my lifetime, but you know, I can die happy knowing that this is true." And then you go into like the Vitruvian Man job skill tree thing, and you just give him like a job, and in a text box it's like, oh, everything I've always dreamed of, I can finally do this magic. And I was like, man, of everyone that could get a cutscene, it'd be this dude. Like, give this dude his moment, he finally gets the magic, man.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I won't say too much there, but yeah. Um, so I'm 50 hours in, or I'm sorry, no, I hit the 60-hour mark today.
Nice.
Um, although the last like 5 hours, I found a really good grind point,
Oh.
um, which is something I never thought I would do in a game again. But like, this game is this game is hard.
Mm.
I have not had to like restore a save from far back to try and develop my guys differently. Like most of the time, if a boss is beating me, I can just I can kind of play around with the party abilities and
Mm.
classes, and then go back in and usually kind of eke out. Like I've definitely had a few boss fights where there's only one dude left
Right.
on my
Right.
team, and mostly the magic points in it are are fairly non-replenishable
Mm.
until you get the what character number is she? I mean, you get Stole. I'm not going to count that one. You get that person whose name is a spoiler. Uh, well, whatever. It's the fourth or fifth character, and they give you a class called the Dancer.
Mm.
Um, and the Dancer gives you some cool, or maybe it's the Faker. I get the Faker and the Dancer mixed up a lot, but one or both of those classes do a couple things for you. One of which is one will restore MP, I think, every round.
Oh wow.
Um, so that is massively helpful. The other will, like, if you're not in turn-based combat and just doing action combat,
Mm.
it'll restore a little bit of health and MP with every kill you do.
Oh jeez, wow,
Um,
that's really strong.
which, yeah, makes grinding like way more possible.
Yeah.
So where I'm at in the game, I'm in the third city you go to as part of the competition for to become king,
Mm.
um, that the church puts on. Um, it's like a series of islands, and you can only kind of sail out of the island in a clockwise direction due to the currents. And I got a side quest to go to this tower at the bottom, and I thought, man, I'm just going to make this cool, big, long trip down there. And, you can only see like 3 days into the future on weather when you pay a seer. And what weather does is it negates the weakness system. So if you hit an enemy in the
Oh.
weak point, you still lose your press turn icon. You don't get to keep half of it.
Oh jeez.
Um, so this place had bad weather, and I thought, well, hopefully it'll clear up by then. And then I got there, and it turns out this place basically never doesn't, like, it always has bad weather, seemingly.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
and it is ridiculously hard. Like, I spent like probably 5 in-game days in it, mainly because I was hoping the weather would change and give me
Mm.
like a chance. But what I discovered in it is, because it's a tower and you're just kind of constantly going upstairs in these little room areas. Um, one of the like you can skip like a lot of the harder guys. You can just run past them. And on like the final floor, there's literally like 30 skeletons you can one hit.
Oh.
And so you can do this run in like 5 to 10 minutes and get like several levels of your basic classes kind of like raised.
Oh, okay.
Um, in addition to materials and whatnot. So I've kind of just been perpetually doing that because I want to play this closer to how I do like a Persona or SMT, where I don't just have one character with the higher level mage spells unlocked. I have a couple of them.
Right.
Um, and if you don't grind, you're going to be in that position where you just have one character with some of that stuff.
Right.
Um, but the grinding just gave me kind of a new appreciation for the mechanics because, like, that one class that gives you power when you kill an enemy without being in turn-based combat. Like I thought, well, that sounds nice, but that seems useless. Like I never run into that, you know.
Right.
Um, but it's a godsend for grinding. And it's anyway. So that is what I've been doing. I think I'm nearing the point where I'm gonna move on. Like I think I have 10 days left to do the thing I got to do before something bad happens. Like
Mm.
these games do.
Right.
Um, but this game is kind of amazing, honestly. Like the the stuff they have added to the Persona system, I think is really smart. I think they've streamlined quite a bit of it, and you aren't going to see that streamlining probably in like the first 5 or 6 hours of the game,
Right.
because you're still going to have to go to more to change classes and all that. And at a
Mm.
certain point, you unlock just being able to do that in a regular menu.
So you don't have to
Um,
visit the Velvet Room all the time.
exactly, exactly. What if you could fuse personas without going to the Velvet Room?
Right.
Um, which is kind of that takeaway. And then just some of the skills and classes you unlock are just really cool and creative. So like the dancer is like a mimic class. So you can,
Oh.
when you have the dancer equipped, the dancer has its own set of skills that are all pretty good, but you can also buy masks for the different classes that you can equip on the character who has the dancer equipped and gain the
Oh.
skills from that class.
Wow. Okay.
Um, the the other thing I'd been discounting that I really started taking advantage of during grinding is they have these synthesis actions where two or more characters can team up to perform something.
Mm.
Um, but you lose like a turn icon per character that participates. And they both
Okay.
use MP. So like before
Oh.
now, I'd been like, man, that's a waste of time. I don't want to do that. But
That's a heavy ask. Yeah.
yeah. But now that like on this ultra hard dungeon, like there's literally one run where the set of classes I had equipped, one synthesis action would basically wipe out all the enemies I was
Oh.
fighting.
Okay.
Um, and then I'd also, because they had so many enemies I could kill just on the overhead thing, I'd restore MP fast enough that I could just do that kind of as long as I wanted.
I see. Okay.
Um, and this game's just really good at creating systems that feed and benefit to each other, and you don't quite realize it, I don't think, till you start grinding a little bit, but they don't really, you're going to be 40 or 50 hours into the game before you unlock the stuff that I
Right.
unlocked and can comfortably do that. But, um, you take the other, I think I talked about this last time. Taking trips with your teammates is just amazing. I cannot emphasize how much I love it. Like, I want to call it a mechanic, but, well, I guess it does have like a mechanic to it. It's almost just set dressing, right?
Mm.
Like you're planning your trip. Well, okay, I got these quests. I can hit this place, and this place. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna go up here. It's gonna take 3 in-game days. Yeah, I'm gonna have enough time there, and we're gonna buy some extra supplies and get going. And then you know, every day you have like social time or whatever on your uh, what's it called, a runner, whatever your ship's called.
Mm.
Um, and so you can read a book, you can cook food. Different social links will change. Like I got a social link unlocked where food doesn't take up time to do anymore. But like when you make food, it's always someone's like cultural delicacy. So one of the party members will join you.
Oh.
Like one of the characters is like a mouse bat type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what his race is called, but every time you cook food with him, at some point you have the food on the table and he is stomping on it with his feet, and it makes me chuckle every time I see it. Um, but it and most of your social interactions will also benefit your kingly attributes. I feel like they're not called kingly attributes, but your social stats.
Yeah.
So your courage or your eloquence or something else will increase. So like you can kind of constantly participate in that stuff. Like it doesn't happen every level, but it happens most levels with them. Um, so like wisdom and courage are the ones you get the most. So I have spent less time doing activities that only increase those attributes.
Mm.
Um, but it's just a really well made game. And there are things that could do better. Like the whole weather eliminating the weakness and getting, saving your turn icons, I think is too harsh. It's too harsh a punishment, like especially if you're on a trip and you're 4 days out from the
Right.
city and it's like, well, I'm not going back. Like I can't spend another 4 days coming out here to do this quest.
Right.
But it's I think another thing that thing taught me is that fine just to skip all the enemies and find the boss and then just sweat it out on the boss,
Right.
like it's entirely feasible. And the runaway mechanic in this game is way more forgiving than any other SMT game I've ever played.
Oh, nice.
Like it's never failed. I don't know if it can fail.
Oh, wow. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Uh, but I adore this game, and most of the time when I'm playing another game, I wish I was playing this one.
That's a good
I'm
sign.
really I'm really excited to see where it goes. I'm a little like throughout the game, the main character has this book of a utopia, and the utopia they always try to make it sound like our world to a
Right.
degree.
It like
Uh,
really looks like New York City in
yeah,
the drawings they have.
yeah, and they'll say some things that like, okay, you don't want me to directly interpret this as the modern world because we
Right.
definitely do not live in a utopia. Like
Right.
maybe in comparison to a medieval city, like obviously like the modern world would seem like oh, we have running water and electricity and
Mm-hmm.
we get to have hot showers and things. Um, but it's it is a little. Sometimes I worry this game is going to devolve into democracy is great
Oh, I mean, with any RPGs,
morality.
there's always that risk. I feel like of like,
Yeah.
this government is great, and you're like, oh no, okay,
Uh, which I guess it's not outright bad. It is better than a monarchy. But
right,
anyway, sorry, don't want to pivot on a game. I guess it's hard because the game is about politics, like to a
right,
large degree.
right.
Um, it doesn't quite hit on modern times, thankfully, as much as Persona 5 did.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need a break from modern times.
Right.
Uh, but it is, gosh, like everything about this game is just, I'm just over the moon about it. Like I hope whatever they do with this system next, whether it's a sequel to this game, whether it's Persona 6, whether it's something different, they take this whole plan a trip mechanic and just lean all the way
Mm-hmm.
fully into it because it is my favorite aspect of this game. It just made me fall in love with the characters, and all the characters have wonderful names. You get a female knight named Hulkenberg,
Right.
and
She seems to be the one
I
that people really love out there on the internet.
as you should. Hulkenberg is amazing. You will love most every cutscene with her
Mm-hmm.
all of her reactions. She is so excited about trying the most disgusting looking food. Uh,
Incredible.
there's just so many good like Stroll's a little hard to put up with. Like he is a do-gooder that's a little much for me. Like
Yeah.
and he rubs me the wrong way a little bit with the I have to live up to my noble blood crap. Like
Mm-hmm.
stop it. Stop it. This
Settle
is
down.
read the democracy book.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Have I shown you my book?
uh but like there well, okay. And then the the mouse bat guy is I think his voice actor may be my favorite because he is just so dedicated and dramatic to his delivery. And
Mm.
whenever they cast like a spell, they say something about the element they're doing. So I should have written it down. Um, but whenever you use like a Mudo, like the death
Mm-hmm.
element spell, like he'll say something about darkness. Like he has this real,
Leaning all the way into it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's real good. And gosh, I could just keep talking about how many things I like about this game. I'll do one more thing.
Okay.
Some of the social links you make, you're like, this is a bad person. This is a really bad person.
Right.
And then they'll unpack it, and then you'll like them a little bit better. And ultimately, it's the character changing due to the relationship with the main character. Like these games do. But
Mm-hmm.
some of them is just like, I'm sorry. What do you do? Who are? Okay,
Right.
okay.
We're gonna be
And
friends? I don't know about
yeah,
that.
they're also okay. One more thing, and then I'll turn it over to you. There's a moment in a game where there is a character who has been sacrificing children.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to try and talk around this
Sure.
to hopefully say a spoiler without saying a spoiler.
But this is kind of like a JRPG, a normal JRPG thing of like, you have to have the dude that kicks puppies, where it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, that dude's very clearly bad. It's like, well, I'm sacrificing all of these evil children for my church, and it's like, ugh, boy, okay,
yeah,
let's just take this
yeah.
dude out, sure.
This is just to say there's a certifiable monster,
Mm-hmm.
and you take them to admit their thing, to win a thing, and they get they're about to get executed on the spot. And one of your characters is like, "No, we didn't want this to happen." I'm like, well, "What did you think would happen?" They were killing children.
It's a bad dude. Like,
I just
the world
it
would
was
be fine.
yeah, that was just a what is it, cognitive dissonance moment.
Right.
Uh, Thankfully, those are few and far between. It is
Right.
mostly stuck the landing on everything, and I'm super excited to see where this goes next. If I can ever talk myself out of stopping grinding in this game, but
Right.
uh, so Boston, what have you been playing?
Um, I'm playing a smattering of a whole bunch of weird stuff this month. Um, oh, I should also mention, as part of TVGP's Game Club, we're playing
Mm,
Life is Strange Double Exposure for our final game for this year. Normally, we'd probably be talking about that on this show because it's kind of in the purview of PUP here. If you haven't listened to the show before, talk about RPGs and kind of related things, especially sort of genres that we feel are a little bit underrepresented. Um, so we're gonna be playing that for Game Club. I think we have like a week or so until we're gonna
yeah.
talk about that. So go check that out. It's brand new. I have been playing. I really wanted something different. I really wanted something that I could, while waiting for other games, I was sort of looking for something that was a little bit lighter lifting, something I could kind of pause and like level focused, where I could pick up and put down and kind of be in and out of. So I picked back up Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. Uh, I I think I was only like 3 or 4, maybe 5 trophies away from getting the platinum. I'd kind of done the hardest one for me, which was there's like the endless world mode where you get um, it's like 2 or 3 random song selections. You pick one of them. Uh, if you complete the quest associated with it, you move on with no penalty. If you fail the quest, you get like some health taken off of your health, and then you move on. And when you get 3 health removed, then you have to bail out. And the trophy for that was getting to like stage 20, which is just basically you're clearing 20 songs and they get progressively more difficult. Like the quests on them get progressively more difficult as you go. So that was incredibly difficult, but I did manage to knock that out. And I thought, well, looking for something else to play here, something that I kind of know how to play. So let's start working on some of these other uh, quests that are out there. And the last couple trophies I have are essentially complete all of the individual quests for every single song and every single series in the game. And I thought that sounded like a pretty impossible sort of thing because like some of these, like Final Fantasy 14 has like 50 songs in it. But a lot of them aren't as bad as they seem. And the game has been out for long enough that there's some pretty good online resources to say like, okay, what does this mean? Like when a quest says defeat the boss by using ice damage, what does that mean? And to me, that was get the final hit on a boss and like defeat them by using an ice attack. That's not the case at all. You just have to defeat the boss and at some point hit them with an ice spell. And I was like, oh, well, that's way easier. I'm gonna
A bit
take
easier.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Vivi in here with double cast, and they're just gonna knock out all these quests. So a lot of that has been kind of me figuring out like number one, what does this quest actually mean, and then number two, do I have the party members that are leveled up to do this? I've been raising a pretty solid party that everybody's like, this is the one that can beat 95% of the stuff in the game. So I've been raising them up and using them. And I'm just still having a blast. I'm clipping through a ton of this stuff. I got the trophy. So there's 3 trophies. One for clearing 10 games, one for clearing 20 games, and then one for clearing all of them. I've already beaten 10. I think I'm actually up to 15 right now. And I think there's 29 total, if I remember from when I counted them all out. So I'm probably about halfway through. And most of the rest of the games that I have, let's say there's 15 songs in some of them, like Final Fantasy 1 through 4 have a shorter song count. I'm like 13 out of 15 completed. So a lot of it is just how do I complete the last 2 where it's like I'm gonna go fight the final fight in Final Fantasy 5 and I have to beat the boss in under 20 seconds, which normally is fine. Except that boss, I think that's the boss, casts stone on your party and petrifies your party. And that lasts for like 10 to 15 seconds. So, like, how do I mitigate? I'm kind of at this point where it's like, if that didn't happen, how do I mitigate that? Because I can defeat them if they won't hit me with stone, but how do I kind of get rid of that? So that's the kind of fun challenges of I can beat all of these songs, so that's not the problem. It's just how do I meet the kind of quest requirements. So that's been a lot of fun. It's sort of the game I needed, the thing I really needed to check out. Of just I want to play something drastically different from what I am playing normally at this point. So that game is still great. Looks like they're done with doing DLC at this point, so I think the game has over 500 songs in it if you buy all the DLC, all of which is well worth it. It has Chrono Trigger, Xenogears, a bunch of Mana songs, a bunch of Saga songs, Nier songs. Like it has everything you'd want from these games. So the game's still great, and I think the demo's still out there. So if people want to check that out, the demo has, I think it's like 12 or 15 songs in it or something. It's a pretty good selection of songs, and the tutorial's pretty good in the game. So check it out. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. Still enjoying it. Hopefully I'll get that platinum someday. Halls of Torment.
Ooh.
Played that this month. This is our brand new We Roguelike It game. So if anyone hasn't listened to We Roguelike It, Moonpair and I, for every month, we play a different roguelike. We get done as much as we can during the month, and then kind of move on to another one. So we were looking for something to play, and I said, hey, Halls of Torment finally came out 1.0. We don't play early access games because things change so much, and the games fluctuate and flux so much during development, understandably. So we wait until it at least hits 1.0. So we're playing Halls of Torment, which if you haven't heard Musum talk about it for a little bit here, it's kind of a Diablo 1 and 2 styled bullet heaven game. If you played Vampire Survivors, that's kind of your prototypical bullet heaven. So haven't played too much of this yet, but pretty impressed with it at the beginning here. I think the thing that I was most surprised about at the beginning is even during your first run, you were getting trophies hand over fist, or achievements. Sorry, it's on Steam. You're getting achievements hand over fist. I got like 6 or 7 achievements in my first run. I was like, okay, this seems like a lot. But then when you unlock the kind of grid for each character class, we're getting those achievements increases the baseline stats of that character. That's cool. We don't always get a lot of roguelikes that reward stuff like that. Usually it's more like, oh, you did 5 runs, now you have +5 health or something like that. But saying like, oh, you lasted at least 26 minutes in this first stage, so now you get +10 attack speed or something. That's cool. I like seeing that quite a bit. So I'm excited to play more of this. This seems pretty neat, and I'm curious to see how much we're gonna get through here in kind of the first month. And very happy to see that the controller support in it is good. Because I'm playing through my Steam Link. I keep wanting to say Steam Deck, but I don't have a Steam Deck. I have a Steam Link, and it works really well on that. And I know I was actually looking. It looks like the developers are working on a console port with no kind of proposed release date. But hopefully that will come out at some point, because I think this will do really well on consoles too.
Yeah.
So hopefully it comes out on Switch, because I think bullet heaven games do really well on Switch. Not a lot to say about Halls of Torment, but so far so good. Enjoying it. It's a cool game. I'm looking forward to playing this for a while, because Musum, you've been talking about it for quite a bit while I was in early access, and I'm like, dang, this game looks cool. I want to play this thing. So happy to see we're getting to it finally.
I didn't even realize it was in early access. A friend bought it for me, and just been kind of on and off addicted to it ever since.
Mm-hmm.
When did the 1.0 come out?
I think it was a month or 2 ago. I think it's pretty recent.
Okay.
It's, to me, it seemed like, looking at the release notes, it was really like, all right, the game has been feature complete for a while now, and we've sort of worked out a lot of the bugs, and all the levels and the progression is here. So I think we're done. I think we're good. We've been putting the 1.0 out. So it seemed more of a like, the game is kind of in a great state, so that we can sort of take it out of early access now. So,
that makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna. Vampire Survivors introduced that DLC, so that's been on my mind lately. But I've been holding off because Game Club,
right.
and Metaphor really, and just free time in general. But man, if I had to do both of them at once, like, I get so excited for either of these games.
Yep. Yeah. I'm excited to check out more of this. I haven't played as much of this as I really wanted to, largely because of the last game here on my list that I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, Halls of Torment, super cool. 2 thumbs up so far. So we'll see after the month here how we're feeling once we dive into it. Destiny 2, Act 2. Sorry, Episode 2, Revenant, is out now. Um, Man, I don't know what to say about episode 2. Um, this is, I don't think I've talked about this on the show yet, right? About Revenant?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So, Bungie announced a couple of months ago when we were in the middle of episode 1, they said, hey, when episode 2 comes out, how episode 1 worked was you'd get 3 weeks of story. It'd be kind of a story beat every week, and then 3 weeks without story stuff. You'd repeat that for Act 2, you repeat that for Act 3. And they said, well, for episode 2, when an act comes out, we're just going to drop the entire story for that act all at once. So if you don't like, the people don't like the quote unquote time gating. The players are always like, oh, I wish it wasn't time gated. I wish I could
Mm.
play this all at my leisure. Well, Bungie sort of gave them what they wanted, and wouldn't you know it, it's not what they wanted. Um, this storyline took about 45 minutes, which is considerably less time than it usually takes. It was pretty funny to kind of get into the swing of things, and then the in-game triumph pops up. You're like, completed Act 1. It's like, oh no. I just like, I sat down ready to kind of knock this stuff out, and oh boy, we're already done. Sure. Um, and I think a lot of that is the repetition that you get from week over week of like, all right, here's the new weekly quest. Go do the seasonal activity. Go talk to this person. Go visit somewhere and like do some activities on a planet. Come back and talk to somebody. Go talk to this other person. You kind of had this big back and forth where you're weaving the seasonal activity into that kind of quest line. They pulled all of the seasonal activity stuff out. Um, so you still need to do that for like working on other activities within the seasonals, the episodic stuff. But it's not like go run 3 of these and then come back, and then next week you're going to run 4 of them and then come back. All of that stuff got cut out. So it's a lot of like talk to this person, go talk to this person, talk to this other person. Ta-da! You're done. Go investigate something here on a planet.
Mm.
Um, I think that's fine. I wish it was longer, um, but I kind of appreciate that there isn't any of that extra padding in there. Um, the unfortunate side of this is that this is one of the buggiest seasons or episodes we've gotten in a really long time. Um, I think we're now really seeing a lot of the negative side effects in the game of the multiple rounds of layoffs that Bungie has been unfortunately going through, especially from like a QA standpoint. Um, One of the biggest downsides here is there's an interesting system in here. So in this episode, I don't want to like get too deep into it, but in this episode, there's this idea that you're brewing these tonics that when you drink them, you're kind of focusing on a specific reward that you want activities to give you. So it'll be like, I want high stat leg armor, or I want world weapon drops, but they're only in the energy slot, or I want stasis heavy weapons, or things like that. So you're making these to specifically focus of, I want to I need something for this slot, or I like this weapon type, or maybe I'm specifically looking for this weapon. Um, and to do that, you're doing field work for Ido, who's the kind of episodic vendor. And for her stuff, she has these 3 sets of quests. The top quests are you craft tonics every once in a while when you craft X number of new ones. She'll send you out to go do something in the field, and it's going to be like grab this thing off the ground and then kill 15 enemies with finishers, or kill 30 enemies with a rocket launcher or something like that. Every time you do 2 of those, you get a middle level one, and each one of those are, to put it plainly, pretty disappointing because they're called major field works in the middle ones. I'm like, okay, great. Go to this place, you investigate a thing, it launches you to a new activity. And I was like, okay, cool. Here we're gonna get like a big thing. You have 2 minutes to defeat 15 enemies, and that's it. And then the mission's over. And like 15 enemies is basically 0 at this point. Like that's not even really a challenge. But to make matters worse, the end of each one of these major fieldworks is supposed to have a pretty considerably long voiced dialogue between, at least for Ido, the character you're dealing with, if not between her and some other characters. None of those have been playing for anybody. So you're kind of working up to this big thing that just completely falls flat because this bug means that you're not listening to any of these dialogue beats, which is a real bummer. And that's frustrating, but not the worst thing, because once you complete all of the minor field works and all of the major field work, they give you a key field work. And I was like, all right, none of these are working. That's fine. I'll at least get this kind of big, like, key at the end. Like, I'll get this big mission. Dialogue doesn't work on that either. It's just like,
Jeez.
I was just like, guys, okay. Like,
Wow.
so like, it's sort of been this 1-2 punch where the Act 1 storyline is over in a flash, which is okay by itself, because you should have these major fieldworks that are really fleshing out the characters and the story and the world. That's not happening either. And then, so that's rough when it's kind of the two of them together. And then the seasonal activity is Onslaught Salvation, which is kind of an updated version of Onslaught, which is the that tower defense mode, like wave-based mode that they introduced a couple of months ago. They updated that with more maps and more enemy types and more like traps and things that you're placing. And that's fine, but I've kind of already done that a bunch. So like, it's, I don't hate it, but it's sort of like I'm not feeling that pull to play it because I've done that already. Like I did that a couple of months ago, grinding for these cool weapons. I don't really want to super do that right now again. So it's a bummer overall. Like, it's still Destiny, and I'm still having fun playing it. Unfortunately, none of my friends are really playing it at all, understandably. But I'm finding it hard to kind of propel myself week over week to play the game again, which again isn't bad because now I have all this time to play this other stuff because I'm not really, grinding in Destiny week over week. So it's rough. I don't know. There's Act 2, I think, happens November 19th. So I'll dive in there for whatever's going to happen, but I kind of expect largely more of the same. Probably like another 45 minutes to an hour, and then kind of right back to the same things we've been dealing with before. So, I don't know. Destiny 2 is... It's hard to ride the high of the final shape wrapping up in kind of the first 10 years. But and it would probably be a lot better if the bugs weren't so prevalent, but we'll get there. It'll be okay. we've good things on the horizon at the very least with the the Frontier stuff. So all right, anyways, last one, let's talk about Vampire Survivors. I will talk about Ode to Castlevania here as my last point, but I did want to hit 2 points here at the beginning. One is I now have all 221 trophies for the PlayStation 5 version. Um, I had like 3 or 4 left that I just didn't really want to do because they sounded like such a pain. Where it's like, play as Santa on this level and fully evolve his weapon, and then pick up one of the like one of the crosses or one of the like stopwatches or something, and that'll get you this. It's like, ugh, god, okay. And you have to do that for like Bat Robert, the alien dude, that guy, and one other person, I think it was. And it's like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
It actually turns out you do get incredibly powerful. So, in Vampire Survivors, they have the Arcana cards.
Hmm.
At some point, they introduced the Darkaso cards, which is that whole sheet of Arcana cards flips, and then you kind of get like the dark versions of those cards. Those are ridiculously powerful. Like, Arcana cards are strong by themselves, but these are wild. Like, one of the ones I take them the most is at every minute on the minute, a new boss spawns that will drop a chest, and that chest will either contain like an upgrade for one of your existing active or passive items, or just something new you haven't picked up yet. So like
Yeah.
at some point you're just rocking around with like 15 things. Like, okay, great, sure. So that was well worth unlocking that stuff. Um, I did finish the Contra DLC because I was tired of that showing up at the top of my list of unlockables. So I I knocked the rest of that out. I don't think that's the strongest DLC pack. I think it has some really clever stuff in there. I think the map is really cool. I'm not the biggest Contra fan, so like I get the impression that kind of everybody is in there, like all the characters you would want, all of their weapons and stuff. It has like all the famous weapons you really be looking for. Um, but I didn't really click with that. The boss at the end of that stage is still really great though. That's really cool. Um, but I did go through, and once I finished that DLC, I banned all those weapons from dropping. Um, which, if anyone hasn't played this game, there is now a system where you can seal weapons. A lot of roguelikes do this now, where you can go and say, I don't want this weapon or this item or this passive or whatever to drop ever. Like, I don't like seeing it. I don't like using it. I don't want it whatever whatsoever. Thankfully, they've introduced in a recent patch, you can just ban an entire DLC's worth of items. So you can just say, Among Us items, I don't want them, which would be crazy. They're all really great. Like Contra, I don't want them. Fuscari, I don't want any of those. You can just ban all of them in one fell swoop, which is great. Again, the Contra weapons and characters and stage and stuff are all really good. There's just so much stuff in this game that I have to ban something, and the requirement for the Contra weapons of the weapon and an item and the briefcase to evolve them was just like a little bit too much. So they've got all those guys are getting sealed up. So again, it's cool. The DLC is like $2. So like, if you like Vampire Survivors, it's more Vampire Survivors. It's still really good. Like, I can't speak negatively about it because it's good. Anyways, let's get to the big guy here. Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania. It is way more expensive than the other DLC packs at a eye-wateringly $4 price tag. So keep that in mind here before you go in. I am going to do my best not to spoil anything because this is a really, really special DLC. I will say it is considerably bigger in every way than the base game of Vampire Survivors itself and all DLC packs combined. It
Holy
is
crap.
huge. It is. I think the thing was like, they said 20 plus characters, over 40 weapons. There's like 15 of them are whips, which is really great. Um, and one level, and the level, it's ridiculous. So they basically made a version of the Symphony of the Night map for Vampire Survivors. And it is so much bigger than you could possibly explore in a 30-minute run. So, what you're doing is you're kind of going into the castle, and every once in a while you'll see these symbols on the ground. They're like red, kind of like pentagram symbols. You step on them, it spawns a boss. And when you defeat that boss, it will drop a chest like normal. But a lot of times it's going to drop a like a sigil or something, or like a seal or something. By picking that up, it will let you open the next set of doors in the castle, but it'll also let you use that teleporter. So it's like, oh, you got the goat sigil. It's going to let you open up the next set of doors to go deeper into the castle, but also the goat teleporter is now available for you. They're exactly the Symphony of the Night teleporters. So now, when you start your next run, you can start at that point in the castle and make it a little bit further into the castle on your next run. So they managed to replicate the Metroidvania kind of systems in the game of, yeah, you're not going to see this whole thing. Like, you need to get upgrades, you need to unlock this stuff, you need to get some level of progression before you can dive deeper into the castle itself. And I think that's really, really, really cool. And then when I beat the DLC, when I saw the ending, it unlocked an even larger place in the castle for me to continue to explore and kind of expand in, which is just completely bananas. And I, excuse me, I really love Castlevania, and I, it's impressive to see how much they love Castlevania too. It's not really a surprise though, because it's, like the value store Castlevania, that's Vampire Survivors. Like, that's kind of like the Dollar General version of, like, it's Kirkland, like
I mean, they have the little skeleton horse head stacks that shoot. Like some of the enemies are direct interpretations
right,
of the
like,
original Castlevania
so it's
already.
kind of wild to see some of this stuff in here that is just Castlevania stuff, where it's like, oh yeah, it's like the skeletons that throw um the barrels at you from Symphony of the Night. Yeah, okay. Yep, sure, those are in there. Why not? The like one of my favorite enemies, the like the maid with the skeleton vacuum, she's in there a whole bunch. It's like, okay, cool. Like, all of the bosses are kind of the bosses you want to see from Castlevania DLC. There's so many of them. I think there's 30 something in total by the time you finish the DLC. And like, I'm just saying that not knowing what else is in there, because I'm sure there's still stuff that I haven't explored yet. Um, and it's really cool to see, you start the map on the like castle grounds, and you go through the drawbridge, and you go into the marble hall, and you go through the library, you fight extending some of the clever stuff they did from the Contra DLC. You do fight some bosses 2D side scrolling, which it was confusing to do from a control standpoint at the beginning until you realize how to control them. Um, but like there's some really clever stuff there. You know, the clock tower is a nightmare, like it is in every single Castlevania game. It's just this like unending, nonstop difficulty, um, and it's really it feels really great just to see them paying homage to Castlevania in a way that feels really genuine, and it doesn't feel like it's pandering. It doesn't feel like it's like, oh, you remember this from Castlevania? Buy the T-shirt. You know, it's nothing like that. It's just really like, yeah, we made Vampire Survivors a Castlevania game because we just love Castlevania, and we're gonna put all of our favorite Castlevania things in here, which turns out to be everything. So like, it's really cool to see them really love these games, especially Symphony of the Night. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but if you're like me and you were like a little too obsessed with having a PS1 and having Symphony of the Night, the ending of the DLC is such an incredible, like, tongue in cheek, we remember this too sort of payoff that I am really surprised anybody did. Um, I I got pretty teary at the end of the DLC just because of how much how it's clear how much love they have for Castlevania, and the way that they sort of display the post game unlockable stuff I thought was really cool. It's so it's so interesting to see them sort of continue to find ways to break their own game and like break their own engine in ways that I think is really really exciting and interesting, where it's like there are no rules when you made your own game. It's one of the biggest games on the planet. Like you can just do whatever you want in a way that I think is really refreshing and exciting. Um, I do have to say, I will give some advice here though. There's so many unlockables in this DLC. I and there are now so many items and passives in this game. I would really recommend hitting the the subreddit if you get stuck and just trying to like, if you want to know how to evolve this one whip just to get to the point where you can unlock the next character, just look it up. There's so much stuff, like the amount of unlockable things that I have in this game now are truly ridiculous, to the point where I just kind of have the list open of like, all right, doing some of this stuff is gonna be hard enough. I don't need to figure out the like riddle to figure out how to do it. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, I just picked up this character and I brought them to Moonglow and I bought the Arcana card that brings everything to you, and I just figured out which one it is there." And I'm like, that does not sound like fun for me personally. If it does for you, great. Like it's your $4, but there's so much stuff in this game that I kind of want to see at this point. So um, I have nothing bad to say about this DLC. I only have good things to say. It's perfect. I just like I don't know how to describe it other than, you know, the Among Us DLC really did feel like kind of an homage to something wacky, of like, yeah, okay, let's put Among Us in this game. Sure, why not? They said yes, let's do it. But this really does feel like, you know, this is the thing that we really do love, and we want to do right by this thing that we love, and somehow Konami said yes, and who knows why, but it's like, just try and get it out there before they say no. And it's great, and I don't know where I don't know where they go with Vampire Survivors from here. Like I think I hope there's more of it because like I will continue to give them my $2 to $5 for every piece of DLC and wring every possible second out of it. But
Ninja
this
Gaiden.
yeah, there you go. But like
Give
this
me Ninja Gaiden, give me Metroid.
yeah, like this really does feel like kind of the ultimate uh kind of homage and DLC for something like Vampire Survivors. So I'm assuming we're going to get more. If we don't, this is a hell of a way to go out on top. So um, I I love it. It's great. I'm Musim. You were worried about diving into this and playing it. Yeah, it's really good.
I Based on this whole conversation, I'm waiting till after Game Club because I think it's
Yeah,
just going to take over all my life.
yeah. I have not made as much progress in the game club game largely because of this and also like everything else I'm kind of in the middle of where I'm like I could play some metaphor but I also do
Yeah,
have a bunch of stuff to unlock in Ode to Castlevania so I'll just play. It's 30 minutes. What's 30 minutes? And then like I'm
yeah,
4 or 5 runs in, I'm like, oh no,
yeah.
that was that many 30 minutes. So
Winter break is perfect for me to plug back
yes.
into this thing and get through it. So,
Oh my god, and the number of songs from Castlevania in
ooh, I
this,
didn't
like
even think about that.
every
Oh my
character has their own like the theme. Of course, the very first character you pick has Vampire Killer, and there's like a bunch of different remixes of it, and they're all
man,
really
what?
great. But it's fun to like play a Soma and have that primary song play, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that song. Yeah, 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 that one. And like every character has that, where you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that song. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
They obviously have a good relationship with Konami between this and Konami owns Contra, right? That's a thing.
I believe so. Yeah.
So, I don't know, could we get a Metal Gear or Silent Hill or
Yeah.
um
I think that's
that
the thing that seems really promising with them doing Castlevania DLC is like that. This is not a small, like Among Us isn't small, but like Inner Sloth seems like a company where it's like, hey man, look, you're cool and you ask for permission, great. Like you can do kind of whatever you want as long as you're not Fortnite and just like try and steal the thing without talking to them. But I think that them treating this with so much reverence, I hope opens the door a little bit more to other big developers and publishers to say, okay, so these guys are asking us whatever Vampire Survivors is, they're asking us to do, a Final Fantasy DLC. Who are
ooh,
they going to be cool about it? And it turns out, yeah, maybe this earns them a little bit of cachet for
yeah.
maybe some other big publisher developers. So
I'm excited to do this. And I know not all their DLCs will be as large as
right,
this one is, but I'm excited either way. I have adored basically everything they've put out.
yeah,
So I'm I'm in. I'm excited for the Castlevania one. I just heard about it like last night or this
hmm
morning or something like that. So,
it's
but
really good. It's
I
really
got I got
it's really good.
to wait
So
like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and I'll be
yeah,
there.
you can do it. I believe in you. Yeah. So and again, we've talked about Vampire Survivors for quite a while on this show. If you haven't played it before, um, it's a really great time to get into it. There's been a ton of quality of life changes they've added. You can zoom in and out the map now, which is
Mm.
a godsend. Um, and if you have a mobile device, it's free on mobile devices. So you can try it out. I don't think it's the best place to play it, but it'll give you a really good idea of kind of how Vampire Survivors works.
Yeah.
So it's great. All right, that's all I'm playing this month. Let's talk about our releases here for November, December. Starting off with Metal Slug Tactics, coming out on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series Console, Switch, and PC. This came out on the 5th. Um, so this is a grid-based, turn-based strategy RPG Metal Slug game that also seems to have some roguelikes elements in it, which is kind of wild that maybe I wasn't entirely expecting. People seem to really, really like this. It seems like I've been watching this for a while because I I like the Metal Slug games quite a bit, even though I'm genuinely pretty terrible at them. Um, and I thought, well, this seems like a really great combination of two things. It turns out people are enjoying this quite a bit. So check that out.
Sounds
Seems to be great.
sounds cool. For some
Yeah,
reason, I thought they'd done a tactics game before, but maybe I was just imagining it.
I'm not sure. But yeah, this seems really neat. So Metal Slug Tactics out now. Also out now, Mario and Luigi Brothership is out on the Switch. Came out on the 7th. This is another Mario and Luigi kind of joint here. Reviews so far have not been super positive. It seems the common thing here is it seems to sort of overstay its welcome a little bit, which, depending on how you feel about the Mario and Luigi games, that might be a positive for you. Of like, heck yeah, just a super long Mario and Luigi game. Let's do it. But it seems cool. I like these games from afar. I cannot fit any more time for RPGs in this calendar year or my schedule at all, largely because of the next game that's coming up here in a minute. But I wish you the best, the two Mustachio brothers. I got no time for you. I'm sorry. Next up here, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake comes out. PS5, Series Console, Switch, and PC on the 14th. Man, I wouldn't be as excited for playing this game if I hadn't played the original version, or sorry, the Super Famicom version here earlier this year. I'm real pumped for this game. Just another kind of super classic, traditional turn-based JRPG is pretty exciting. So, I have this pre-ordered. I pre-ordered the physical PS5 version just because, number one, that cover art is really good looking. Number two, I also like the idea of having a physical copy of Dragon Quest that just says PS5 on the top of it. That tickles me quite a bit. But yeah, I'm real excited to play this again. I had a lot of fun with this before, and I'm really excited to see what they've changed in this, especially coming off of having just played the Super Famicom one. I feel like I'll probably recognize kind of any changes here that they've sort of made. So excited. This will be cool, I think. Fingers crossed. Next up, Genshin Impact is coming out on series consoles on the 20th. That's finally happening here. I continually forgot this was not out on Xbox platforms for some reason, and now it's coming out there. So if you want to do the Breath of the Wild gotcha pulling hack and slashy thing, you can do that. I couldn't even imagine starting this game now with the astronomical amount of content they have in this game. Of just like, when I started this game, I played this game at launch. It was like, yeah, here's the one landmass, have fun. And now it's just like, yeah, here's like 20 of them. Go crazy.
Yeah.
Got a bajillion characters. Let's go. It's like, oh, okay. Oh boy. All right.
I gotta be honest, when I looked at her list, like I kind of glazed over it and I thought, oh, that's weird. They made a sequel.
That's
No.
right. That's right. Yeah,
Somehow Xbox players don't have this game. Super weird.
yeah. I still don't know why that happened. I'm sure there was some. I mean, worldwide, the Xbox Series console install base is pretty low. So I'm sure the juice hasn't been worth the squeeze up until this point. But I'm kind of curious why it is now. Like, why is the time for this to happen? I'm not entirely sure, but go check out Genshin Impact. It's all right. It's fun. It's a good time. And next and last game we have here coming out on the 5th of December, Fantasian Neo Dimension comes out. PS4, PS5, Series Console, Switch, and PC. I'm really looking forward to this. This is Hironobu Sakaguchi's game. Uematsu comes back for the soundtrack as well. This was the mobile. I think it was only on Apple Arcade for a while. This is the mobile turn-based RPG that they're turning into a console version. Sort of famous for having the diorama backgrounds where they molded clay and they put a bunch of stuff and your play spaces on top of that stuff. People really, really, really liked this when it was on mobile, and the chorus kind of always was, "I really hope it comes to other stuff because you guys really need to play this thing," and I am very excited to probably play this sometime beginning of next year because I have way too many other things to check out at the moment. But I'm really pretty excited about playing Fantasian Neo Dimension. This seems to be really great. So finally coming out on consoles and PC. Yay. All right. That's all of our releases for this month. It means it's the end of the episode. Remember, next month we have an episode where we're kind of looking back at the RPGs of 2024, looking forward to the RPGs of 2025. So we're not going to leave you high and dry for December here. Also wanted to mention too that in the month of December we're going to be having a Patreon open house over at patreon.com/E1M1. Those ones are our numbers. If you wanted to check out some of the cool shows that are behind the paywall for the entire month of December, we'll have 3 shows that are free for everybody over on that site. They are explicit, so I can't put them on this feed that you're listening to on here over on TVGP, because we would get banned from everywhere I've said, hey, this is clean. So if you want to check out the Critical Misses production meeting, TVGP Outcast, and an episode of The Wayward Sons, there'll be a free one over there. We've kind of picked our favorite ones from this past year. So from December 1st to December 31st, you'll be able to go over to patreon.com/E1M1 and go check those out for free. And if you like them, go sign up for the Patreon. $5 a month tier is the recommended one. That'll be all the good stuff over there. Musum, where can we find you online?
You can find me in links to everything I do at my link tree. That's linktr.ee/John Musum, JOHNMUSIM, including a link to the record I made, Intermix 66 Volume 1, our Route 66 based bands of Oklahoma, of industrial and electronic and what have you. So there you go.
You can find me over at campsite.bio/Jansten, JANSTEN. Also want to put a quick plug in here for Moonpair and I got a chance to interview Xalavier Nelson Jr. of Strange Scaffold a couple weeks ago, and put that over on tvgp.tv. That's the studio behind Clickholding and I Am Your Beast and all of that. Sat down for, I think, almost 45 minutes. Talked to him about what does the development mean, sustainable development mean for Strange Scaffold. What's the most important thing for his games. Do a deep dive into Clickholding itself, since we played that on Game Club, and talk about his favorite games and stuff like that. It was a really great interview. He was very generous with his time. I know he's incredibly busy, so I was really appreciative of that. You should really go check that out. It was a very, very interesting interview, and I thought he was talking about a lot of really, really cool stuff over there. So check that over on tvgp.tv. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.